Okay, throttle bodies are off and they seem to be welded there at the shaft, so they're interconnected that way, but they're just seized up. That's okay. And I think they're 65mm throttle bodies, and they got one TPS unit, throttle position sensor right down one of them. That's all you need. This thing. Okay. The throttle bodies are now being soaked in fuel and oil. Not that I care about them, but you know, we'll just see if I can free them up. Okay, let's get this top off. A lot of silicone and that on there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to a twin carb tunnel ram now. All right, let's get this carb adapter off. All right, okay, let's go ahead and pull this thing down, and I'll give you the rundown and the story with it and what's to go with it. Yeah, anyway, the gentleman I bought this thing off for dirt cheap, I must add, you know, has been involved with Cleveland's and that in his past, both 2V and 4V. He's had some cool things. And it was actually sitting out in his property, out in the field, and it was actually used as a marker for a mountain bike trail. So yeah, it was sitting out on a log for a while, and it must have toppled over and, you know, hit the ground and sat there for a while until he decided to flog some of his Cleveland stuff off and ended up with me. Anyway, a couple of you guys on there guessed sort of what it is, and I'll just go ahead and explain that a little. So first, we've got to look at distinctive features, so sort of like that, 351, 302. We've got to look at things like this that's under there. So see that that finned cast in stripes there. We've got to look at things like that. And obviously the size of the intake ports and runners, and they're not 4V size. So we have a 2V intake manifold here, a 2V tunnel ram. It's definitely an interesting piece to look at. You know, it's not the best, you know, quality made modifications as far as what I can see, but the guy did convert this over to EFI, and he did even have the ECUs and all. So I don't think things were, you know, looked at and thought of well when it came to modifying this thing. I purely just wanted it more for the base, and, you know, possibly maybe the car plenum, and that's about it. But yeah, it's interesting, and we'll, you know, let's go through what he's done. You know, he told me his machinist and things like that carried out all the work. You know, his aluminium TIG welder, and, you know, the injector bosses are all welded in and things like that. Things all got done properly apparently. You know, everything's like straight and welded. So you can see there they've skimmed the outside of the runners first. You can see that little notch, and what they've done is they've just machined that straight just so they can weld these bungs in straight, because obviously the EFI rail is straight and you don't want things, you know what I mean, veering off and trying to make it up. Yeah, so after skimming the outside of the runners, they've then gone and drilled directly downwards, not sort of straight across the runner like that, which I think is wrong. So they've done the right thing by just drilling downwards, and that's pretty cool. I'll just show you an example here. You can see that, and that's how the injector would be spraying through the runner. And the EFI bungs are welded in true and straight, and as you can see, I've got my straight edge there, and that's just rubbing along all of them nice and fine. There's no gap, there's no nothing, so that's pretty cool. That's done properly there. Same on the other side. You run my straight edge along the EFI bungs, and they're laying across all of them. It's perfectly true, which is pretty cool. So that EFI conversion is done right. Blade size is 65 millimeters. Apparently, what he told me was he ran factory Mitsubishi type injectors. Now, I don't know from what model or anything like that. But yeah, when it was running, they did get this thing up and running, this Cleveland. It was on a set of ported, done up 2V heads, you know, with a mild solid stick. And they just had issues trying to tune the thing, and apparently his electrician stuffed up a lot of things in the wiring. And towards the end, it was running all right for a while, but then towards the end, they just aborted this whole thing and just went with a single plane and single carb. All right, let's get this access plate off. That's just all it is. This thing's like a jigsaw puzzle, so you know, you pop this plate off and you get to the other bolts, remove this top plenum, and get to the other bolts, then remove the carb plenum. So yeah, I'll show you guys. All right, it's not the best job. You can tell they've just slapped this thing up and rushed it. You know, it could have been better. You know, even all the cutouts, you know, they're all like just jagged. They're not sharp, but you know, just look at the quality of that. Nothing's match ported with beneath that, which is the original carb plenum. They just had the bolts there, you know, with some silicone on top. I don't know what they did that for. Okay, so let's get this twin throttle plenum off. And there we go, guys. That's the original carb plenum that would have come with this intake. And the carb pads, the risers, they would have been formed in here. They've all been machined off. So they've machined this thing real flat. They've drilled this hole. I don't know why. I got a feeling that they realised they're doubling up on plenums. So, you know, it's entering one plenum, it's going through there, filtering out, you know what I mean? I think this hole here, I think maybe their plan was to maybe have drilled that out so it's matching, just so they can, you know, keep the plenum more as a one unit instead of like a double decker, you know, separated thing. There would have been carb obviously sideways, and they've machined it straight at least, so you know everything's, I'll just show you this way, everything's machined true. There's no, you know, there's no air gaps or anything like that. You can tell it's decked, you know, by a qualified person on a machine. Like I said, it's no biggie. What you'll do is you know, even if you don't want to just run silicone, you can just cut up some gasket paper, and what you'll do is you'll just cut out, yeah, so you'll make up some type of a, you know, space or a heat insulator. You'll lay that down first just to seal up all this crap, you know, and just to tidy up whatever they've cut around here. And you'll lay that first across, and then you'll just run a spacer just like that example there, and then put your carby on top. It's not too bad. That carb plenum can be sorted out and fixed. That's okay. Down holes. So I'm yet to mock this thing up. I'm going to take it over to my Cleveland that's on the stand still, and just see how it lines up, you know, and see how it sits in the valley and stuff like that. But the guy said he had no issues. He laid down all right. There wasn't any issues in that department. Okay, let's get this carb plenum off, and that's just all it is. It's all hasn't been tampered with. It's all original underneath. It's got 2 vacuum ports coming out of it. They've probably put them in. Let's put that there. And the original make would have been in there. And like I said, one of the distinctive features on this intake is these 2 fins that run here, and that's a thing that Kane tunnel rams had on theirs, as well as being an all, you know, sealed in unit like that. and as well as they had the 302 and 351 back here. So they've definitely machined off the cane logo that would have gone here. You can see machine marks in there. I don't know why, but yeah, so this is a cane 2V Cleveland vintage Telegram, most likely, you know, from the 80s or 90s, possibly even 70s. The only other possibility I was considering is Redline 2V Telegram, but I'm more, you know, gonna go with that it's a cane. Redline did do a similar thing like this with similar features, but you know, I'm 99% certain it's a cane Telegram. I was worried a little bit about aluminium corrosion and some pitting, but you know, before he sent it out to me, he had a good look at it, sent me a whole bunch of photos, and I said that's fine, you know, looks good to me. The ends there before it meets the head has been ported out just a little, and I got him to measure that before he sent it to me. And the 2V heads, you do need to port them out bigger on the inlets and upon entry, so that's fine. Like I'm talking about, you know, there's probably 1.5 millimeter around the whole perimeter overstock, so that's fine, that's normal. And I was worried about if, you know, if there was any pitting or anything like that being formed, but you know, that just looks, that's about it there. And there's just one more spot, which is that, and that's fine, that hasn't gone through anything, that's just basically on the surface. And I think luckily that, you know, they had this sprayed, because that's not the original alloy, that color. That's actually, this thing's been sprayed in silver, so I think that's helped it, to be honest. Yeah, so that's the underside of it, and that's the injector hole, and it looks like they've drilled the runner maybe twice, or they've misaligned it and that, but that's fine, because you know, the EFI bung itself and all the weld cover everything, so it's no problem. But yeah, they could have, you know, concentrated a bit better the first time and gotten that right. Also, if we measure the 2V port on these, like I said, just the openings have been you know, flared out a bit, obviously to suit his 2V heads. So even if we find the center there, you know, it's about 56 millimeters. I think the stock head is like 52, and that's, you know, it's like I said, it's probably a 2 millimeter perimeter match port job, which is quite normal on a 2V setup. And if we go the width wise, roughly it's about 37 and a half. Hang on, let me get that straight. Yeah, so, you know, and I think stock's about 35, so yeah, it's probably got that 1.5 to 2 millimeter perimeter in match port, which is normal. Like I said, 2V heads, you know, you do port out the inlets on the factory irons. It's the only way to make them work and make some power with them. You do not leave them stock. It's a bit different with the 4Vs and the 2V stuff. But yeah, anyway, you know, it's structurally sound, so there's no problems there. You can scallop all this out if you want it, you know, to look cool, you know, like a, you know, if you want all that stuff to be open there. And obviously then you would need, you know, you can scallop out the front if you want there, and, you know, the back side, or vice versa. But obviously you'll need to run a valley pan then, you know, oil valley pan to seal off that. But yeah, still said that, you know, it was all under bonnet in his Falcon, so that's, you know, pretty surprising to me. You would think it'll be sky high, but it's not. Obviously some spacers, carburetors and some air cleaners are higher than the whole deal. But what should have been done was, you should have got rid of that if you're going to get EFI, and all you do is just a plenum. You just do a plenum right on top of the entry, the D ports, and you know, that's all you need. You got your EFI injectors, your fuel rail around here, link them up to the other side, some throttle bodies, and off you go. And it remains even lower and probably will work, you know, better. It looks a bit cooler that way. And you don't want two plenums. I think there was a mistake in that, because, you know, they're just trying. All right, so let's compare it to my badass vintage unmolested dead stock 4V tunnel ram by Wind, and I've already noticed some differences here just with the port entry design. So remember, if you guys have watched my previous vid on this, remember how that has a bit of a wall and a radius turn that somewhat affects flow upon entry here. And if you look at this one, that, which would be the roof of the head port, is actually more straighter. It's a nicer, less radius turn there. So it's a more of a straight shot. Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. And if we look at the sizes, that's the 4V, that's this Cane 2V. So we'll take a look at the width there, which is a good 50 millimeters wide. And we'll look at the depth, which is 50, right? We'll come over here to the big boy 4Vs, and we take a look at that width there. It's a good 56, I would say, close to 57 on the width there. Just say it's 57, so it's 7 millimeters wider on the floor, and you know, within the belly there in the middle. And if we go the depth, it's 50, the same. Wow. The previous vid, the cross-sectional area within the entry of this 4VD port is sort of borderline to the actual exit, you know, towards the head port. It has still got more area within here, but if you come over to the 2V, the 2V will be better at it, I'm thinking. So I'm thinking it'll have great cross-sectional area upon entry compared to the actual size of the port, you know, where it's exiting. So I reckon that's, you know, that's good. That's pretty badass. This 4V intake is slightly higher. And like I said, I think it's only the actual port, the actual runners are exactly the same length, ironically, but the height is more, I think, due to that wall being a little bit higher, the side that goes to the roof of the head port. And like I said, that's just got, you know, no wall, less radius there compared to the 4V. Anyway guys, so why am I showing you all this? Why, you know, all this business here? Well, why not? I mean, while I was on the 2V topic, this thing, you know, just fell upon me, and for the price that I picked this thing up for, you know, it was $200 posted to my door, which is, you know, say $135 US landed to your door. And you know, that's, I think that's a bargain, and it's a pretty rare piece because it is a Cane manufactured 2V cast tunnel rim. And you know, I did besides that 4V Cleveland build, whenever that, you know, happens or gets finished, I did have plans to do another supercharged street you know, combination. Nothing crazy with horsepower, just more something, you know, you know, blower twin carb on top, just more of a street thing. So, you know, I have been thinking for a while, you know, I got a couple of blocks, virgin ball blocks at home. I was considering an open chamber iron 2V head just because of the size of the chamber. But, you know, then again, those chambers are a little inefficient, so I'm worried about that. You know, as far as how much street boost I can cram in, you know, without it, you know, pinging and shit like that. But yeah, it was more for the base, and you know, you can create a blower plate on here and get it all welded in, and then, you know, get all this ported in, do a pop-off plate underneath, just pretty much similar to that that rare Boss 302 blower intake video I did a while back. Just the same deal as that. And, you know, things will basically cost you nothing, you know, and you can get things done and, you know, make things happen for dirt cheap. Yeah, but we'll see, you know. I'll consider it. If not, I might just offload it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, you know, it's something I thought of, you know, down the track. I got a couple of old school blowers at home that I picked up, you know, for almost nothing a while back, and I might get them converted over, you know. And you never know, it might be cool, you know, even to keep this all EFI and maybe adapt this plenum on top of the blower with the throttle bodies. And, you know, you can always add one more, maybe in that spot there, or just enlarge them and just, you know, make them into 75 or 80 millimeter twin throttle bodies. I think that's enough. And yeah, that could be cool too, I guess. So do a blower plate, EFI, put that on top with the throttle bodies, and yeah, that'll be sweet. Anyway, thanks guys for tuning in, and thanks again for going through with me on this you know, pretty rare cane 2V tunnel ram, and I think I'll leave it at that. Thanks guys.